Well, good evening, friends. Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, this literally does not work. Um, just got finished doing my live stream. I appreciate all of the great fans, all of the ladies and stuff out there. And let me make something clear because I had some Eagle fans that came in there and said, "Philly 500 sent me." Well, I want you to understand I don't hold anything per se against fans of other teams because they're a fan of another team. Because I have a lot of friends that are Eagle fans, that are Washington fans, and Giant fans. I hold thing against ones that are happen to be fans of those teams that come in and are just assholes. It wouldn't matter what team they supported if they were an asshole. I just don't want to bother with you. And so somebody like Philly D or Philly 500, even Philadelphia. Philadelphia is kind of delusional. But did you see that? They always say like a moth to a flame. Did you see it? Look, he hit me first. He landed over here, and then jumped in the fire. And now he's cooking. I got fried bug. I guess if I was on Naked and Afraid, I'd be eating it right now. But anyway, I have no problem with fans of other teams as long as you're cool people. Don't scare the ladies and chase them away because you don't know how to interact with them. We actually have a nice, tight knit group of people on our channel, where we try and have real discussions. We have fun, We understand that Eastside Harold, who is a Texans fan, that he's like the whipping boy. He comes in like the Texans are the greatest thing to slice bread, knowing that his team is ass. So it's cool. When I got finished my live stream, I saw a notification from Law Nation and shout out to Law Nation for bringing this up, um, about the Dallas Cowboys secondary being ranked, I think, 31st in the NFL. And the way Law had pronounced, I didn't see the article, but the way Law had put it was because they looked at the Cowboys secondary from last year, which was bad, and the moves that we made were basically taking and getting Demontre KZ. Whenever I say KZ, I feel like I'm saying KZ, like I'm sneezing. That's the way I remember it. KZ, KZ. It's like a sneeze for me. And getting Keanu, Neal. But they looked at it and said that the Atlanta Falcons had one of the worst secondaries in the NFL. The Cowboys get a couple of their players, and they get their head coach, so automatically the Cowboys will be ass. That's a theory and assumption that you could say if you say that the problem with that defense was those two players and him as a coach. But as the head coach, it's a little different than if you are the defensive coordinator. Mike McCarthy is the head coach, but I don't think that he's going to actually be coaching the defensive players. I may be wrong, but he's more of the offensive guy, and the head coach is more of, I am the overseer, I am the manager of these guys, okay, or the CEO, and these are my vice presidents that handle each of those operations, and it's their place to put people in places to succeed and to take care of the vision. Okay, so let's go through this assumption, because people seem to think that if you're bad, you cannot change and get better. The assumption was the Dallas Cowboys defense last year was awful, and the things that they did won't change that. Right? What I always like to do is find reasons why they're wrong, or why they could be wrong. I think back to the 2013 season. 2013, we had DeMarcus Ware, who will be a Hall of Famer. One of the best pass rushers that the Dallas Cowboys ever had. We had a young Sean Lee, okay? We had Jason Hatcher have a career year with 11 sacks. That defense was 32nd in the NFL. They were terrible. terrible. That defense lost DeMarcus Ware. He got cut. He went to Denver. Jason Hatcher wasn't re-signed. Jason Hatcher ended up going to Washington, signing a fat contract that he didn't, basically stole money from. Sean Lee ended up blowing his knee out in the first OTAs with Zach Martin coming around, pulling in a non-padded practice. So when you looked at that defense at 32nd, and you lost your three biggest only named players on the roster, you looked at that and said, as they said, the Cowboys defense will lose to high school teams. Because we had guys like George Selvey that we brought in. George Selvey was a journeyman defensive lineman. He played, I know, at Jacksonville, I think Tampa Bay, maybe Atlanta. I think he played for 4 different teams in 4 years and had a total of like 4 sacks. Those were the guys that we had on that defense. That defense that coming off of being 32nd in the NFL. The amazing thing is as we took all these pieces without Sean Lee, without DeMarcus Ware, without Jason Hatcher, that defense went from 32nd in the NFL, historically bad, to 19th in total defense. But wait, they were also second in taking away the football. They improved 13 spots from where they were before. I'm not saying that the Cowboys defense will improve that much, but if we go from 29th to 16th on our defense, it's possible. The Washington football team went from 24th to 4th last year. That turnaround. The difference being a couple of players like Chase Young and a different head coach, Ron Rivera. Well, we've got a different defensive coordinator. We have now new players that are there. And back to this whole thing of automatically saying that, oh, Keanu Neal and DeAndre Moore, they were part of the worst secondary in the NFL. They gave up a whole lot of yardage. Well, understand, this goes back to the whole thing where we look at players and say it's his fault and his fault alone. Because if your defense is bad at all the levels, it makes it bad all the way through. You could look back to, say, a New York Giant team that was winning Super Bowls with an average secondary, but because they were able to put pressure on the quarterbacks, because they were able to stop the run, that quarterbacks only had 2 seconds to throw the football. If you're a defensive back that only has to hold up for 2 seconds versus a defensive back that has to hold up for 6 or 7, I don't care if you're Deion Sanders. If your defensive line cannot put pressure on the quarterback, guess what? You're going to be the worst defensive rated backfield in football. Now, this isn't what I originally had come out here to talk about, because I came across this clip, and I'll save it for tomorrow, about from 3 months ago when they were talking about the question marks for the Dallas Cowboys. And it's amazing how much has changed in 3 months, because 3 months ago we had no clue as to what shape Dak Prescott was in. He wasn't even under contract yet. We had all of those guys that were injured. We didn't have the draft where we were fixing the defense. We have answered so many different questions, and I'll go into this in more detail tomorrow because it's beginning to rain. And it actually got kind of chilly out here. It went from being like 80s and 90s the last few days to yesterday being a biblical rain, and now it's about 60 degrees and raining. It's just crazy. But you know me. I come out here at night to be thankful for the day. And you know, not every day is a great day. Some days you have bad days. You have days that, you know, you might have You may have lost somebody that you loved. You might have days where you're fighting with your significant other, or you may have days where you don't have enough money to pay the bills. You have days that you worry about what's going to happen with your knees. Are you going to have to get surgery? You got to wait till next week to find out. You have good days and bad days, but no matter what kind of day it was, I feel thankful and blessed that I had that day. And this is me coming out here and being thankful for what I have and being appreciative for it, because there's no promise or guarantee that there'll be a tomorrow for me. So I want to come out here and reflect on the day that was and let everybody know how much I care about. And I care about all of you out there. So with that being said, let me turn off the lights and get out of this cold rain before I catch pneumonia. And that ends up being the thing that ends it all for me. I appreciate y'all. And God willing, I'll see you in the morning.